The air in Maplewood Hospital was thick with tension. Machines beeped, then slowed. Emily's last breath faded, and silence filled the room. Outside, Mr. Carter paced the hallway, imagining toy cars for the son he expected. Then the doctor stepped out, hat in hand. "Your wife, she's gone. But your sons are alive." Two nurses placed tiny babies in his shaking arms, perfect twin boys. A sob escaped his throat. "Emily, we were going to name him Daniel if he was a boy." Tears dripped onto the blankets as he kissed each forehead. "Liam, Noah, I'll take care of you myself." Grief and determination battled inside him, but his vow was made. No mother, no family, just the memory of his late mother, buried months before. That night, Mr. Carter carried his newborns into the dark, their future uncertain. At home, bills and funeral plans covered the kitchen table like broken promises. Dawn came before sleep did. The babies cried, hungry, and he panicked. Empty formula cans lined the counter. Rushing through town with the twins tucked under his coat, he met Ms. Grace, a nurse who collected donor milk. She handed him 2 bottles. "They're everyone's children now." Her kindness gave him hope. In that fragile dawn, Mr. Carter found the strength to keep going. For weeks, Mr. Carter stitched diapers from old shirts, boiled water in dented pots, and learned to swaddle through trial and error. Neighbors whispered, "A mechanic can't raise babies alone." But he ignored them, hanging a handmade mobile above the crib, scrap metal and string. Exhaustion weighed on him, but the vow echoed, "I will take care of you." By their first checkup, the twins were healthy. Nurses marveled. Townspeople stopped predicting disaster. Yet loneliness crept in. Every night, Mr. Carter stood in the doorway, watching his boys sleep, whispering stories about their mother. The woman who loved apple pie, who laughed louder than fireworks, who died so they could live. When the twins turned 5, school fees loomed. Mr. Carter's mechanic shop barely covered costs. Then he met Claire, soft-spoken, a widow who praised his work and doted on the boys. "I'll treat them like my own," she promised. For 6 months, the house smelled of fresh bread. Bedtime meant stories in 2 voices. Mr. Carter dared to hope. Then, one evening, screams tore through the house. Claire towered over the boys, a belt in hand. "Ungrateful brats. You ruined my dress." Red marks streaked their arms. Something inside Mr. Carter snapped. "Touch them again, and you'll answer to me, and God." Claire spat, "No woman will want a man stuck with motherless boys." By dawn, she was gone. With Claire gone, Mr. Carter doubled down. School fees piled up. The mechanic shop wasn't enough. "Sell your shop? For boys? They'll marry and leave you," neighbors scoffed. But he did it. On moving day, the twins pressed their hands against the garage walls. "Thank you for keeping us safe." Mr. Carter locked the door, tears hitting the pavement. Years later, Liam became an aerospace engineer. Noah, a pilot. They returned not just to visit, but to repay every sacrifice. A mansion, a scholarship fund in their mother's name, a documentary about their journey. At a ceremony, Mr. Carter, now gray-haired, whispered to the sky, "Emily, our boys flew higher than we ever dreamed." With the mechanic shop gone, Mr. Carter took a job as a school janitor. The pay was meager, but it kept food on the table. Every morning, he woke before sunrise, packed the twins' lunches, and walked them to school before heading to his own job. The boys noticed how hard he worked. Liam once found his father asleep at the kitchen table, a half-finished sandwich in his hand. Noah quietly took the sandwich and wrapped it for later. They never complained about hammer-down clothes or patched-up shoes. Instead, they studied harder. One evening, Noah looked up from his homework. "Papa, my teacher said I'm good at math. Maybe I can get a scholarship." Mr. Carter ruffled his hair. "You'll get more than that. You'll fly planes one day." Liam, always the practical one, frowned. "But school costs money. What if?" "No what if," Mr. Carter interrupted. "I promised your mother I'd take care of you. And I will. Noah's math skills earned him a spot in a regional science competition. The prize? A full scholarship to a prestigious aviation academy. But there was one problem. The competition was in another city, and they couldn't afford the trip. Mr. Carter sold his only remaining treasure, a gold watch left by his father. "Time is better spent on your future than on my wrist," he said, handing Noah the train tickets. Noah won. When the letter arrived, Mr. Carter held it like it was made of glass. "My boy, a pilot." His voice cracked. Liam, not to be outdone, secured an engineering internship by fixing the school's broken computer. "Guess I'm good with machines, just like you, Papa," he said, grinning. The day the twins left for college, Mr. Carter stood at the train station, gripping their shoulders. "Make her proud," he whispered. Noah hugged him tight. "We'll come back for you." Liam, fighting tears, slipped a handmade wrench into his father's pocket. "For when you miss us." As the train pulled away, Mr. Carter watched until it disappeared. Then he walked home alone, the house quieter than ever. Years passed. Mr. Carter worked, saved, and waited. Then, one evening, a sleek car pulled up to his small house. Noah stepped out, wearing a pilot's uniform. Liam followed, carrying blueprints. "Papa," Noah said, grinning, "we're building a house. For all of us." Mr. Carter's hands trembled. You didn't have to." Liam shook his head. "Yes, we did. Because of you, we never gave up." The twins kept their word. They built a home, a foundation for underprivileged kids, and even tracked down Miss Grace, the nurse who'd given them donor milk, to thank her. At the grand opening of the Emily Carter Learning Center, Mr. Carter stood before the crowd, his voice steady. "Love doesn't count costs. It just builds futures." Noah and Liam stood beside him, their success a living testament to a father's promise. And as the sun set, Mr. Carter knew, somewhere, Emily was smiling. After the twins left for college, Mr. Carter's small house felt cavernous without the sounds of teenage laughter and the constant hum of studying. He filled his days working double shifts at the auto repair shop where he'd found employment after selling his own garage, coming home to reheated meals eaten alone at the kitchen table that still had the pencil marks where Liam and Noah had measured their growth each year. The neighborhood children, who once played with the twins, now looked at him with curious eyes when he walked to work in the mornings, their parents whispering about that man who raised those boys all by himself. Every Sunday without fail, he'd sit by the old rotary phone waiting for their weekly call, marking the days on a calendar Noah had made him in middle school. When the phone finally rang, he'd listen intently to their stories about college life, Liam's engineering projects, Noah's flight simulations, his calloused fingers tracing the grooves in the wooden table as if trying to bridge the miles between them. The walls of the house, once vibrant with the twins' drawings and school awards, now held only fading photographs and the quiet determination of a father waiting for his sons to come home. The letters started arriving during the twins' junior year, official-looking envelopes with university logos that Mr. Carter carefully opened with his work-worn hands. Tuition increases, lab fees, textbook costs that made his breath catch. He began taking on extra jobs, fixing neighbors' cars on weekends and selling the few valuable tools he'd kept from his mechanic days, telling the boys everything was fine during their weekly calls. Then came the winter his old truck finally gave out, leaving him to walk 3 miles to work in the snow, the cold seeping into bones that weren't as young as they used to be. One particularly brutal January morning, he collapsed at the shop, his body finally rebelling against years of relentless work. When the doctor mentioned hospital bills and reduced working capacity, Mr. Carter did the only thing he could think of. He quietly put his house up for sale, determined that not even failing health would stop him from keeping his promise to see the twins through school. He moved into a single rented room above the repair shop, telling the boys he'd downsized to be closer to work, his voice steady even as he packed away the last of Emily's dishes in storage. The day Noah showed up unannounced at the repair shop, Mr. Carter was underneath a sedan, grease streaking his face as he wrestled with a stubborn transmission. The familiar voice saying, "Need a hand, old man?" made him jerk so hard he hit his head on the undercarriage. As he scrambled out, there stood Noah in his aviation school jacket, taller and broader than Mr. Carter remembered, with Liam right behind him holding 2 plane tickets. "We're taking you somewhere," Liam said, his engineer's eyes already noticing the cot in the back room and the empty fridge. What followed was the first vacation of Mr. Carter's life. 3 days at an aviation conference where Noah was speaking, staying in a real hotel where the twins insisted on treating him to room service and hot showers. That night, as Mr. Carter slept between crisp hotel sheets, Liam and Noah stayed up whispering, having finally seen through their father's cheerful lies about how well he was managing. The next morning, they sat him down with spreadsheets and plans, their voices firm in a way that reminded him painfully of Emily. "We're taking over from here, Papa," Noah said, placing a hand over his father's scarred knuckles. "It's our turn to keep promises now." The grand opening of the Carter Brothers Aviation Institute 10 years later would become local legend. The gleaming new building filled with flight simulators and engineering labs, funded by Liam's patented aircraft designs and Noah's successful airline. Mr. Carter, now silver-haired but still straight-backed, stood between his sons at the ribbon cutting, overwhelmed by the crowd that included former teachers, old neighbors, and even Ms. Grace who'd saved them as babies. As cameras flashed, Liam leaned down to whisper, "This is for every parent who ever sacrificed," while Noah squeezed his shoulder, adding, "and every kid who needs someone to believe in them." That evening, when the celebrations ended, the 3 of them sat on the porch of the new house the twins had built him, close enough to the institute that he could hear students laughing on their way to classes. Mr. Carter looked at the stars, thinking of Emily, of empty formula cans and sold tools, of all the nights he'd wondered if his best would be enough. Then Liam brought out his childhood wrench, now framed alongside Noah's first pilot wings, and in that moment, every sacrifice crystallized into perfect sense. The boys had flown farther than he'd ever dreamed, but they'd never left him behind, and that, more than any success, was the true measure of their journey. The control tower crackled with tense silence as the experimental aircraft's engines roared to life. Below the wing, Liam Carter's fingers flew across his diagnostic tablet while above, his twin brother Noah adjusted his headset. But all eyes were on the silver-haired man being helped into the co-pilot's seat, the retired mechanic who had sold his tools to buy their first textbooks. Mr. Carter's wrinkled hands trembled not from age, but from the overwhelming truth. This revolutionary plane, this moment, this legacy, all built on a poor man's unbreakable promise. As the Emily's Promise taxied down the runway, Mr. Carter saw flashes of their struggle in the shimmering tarmac, the food-stretched meals, the patched school uniforms, the winter nights he'd slept in the garage to save on heating. The plane lifted smoothly, and Noah guided his father's hands to the controls. "She flies just like you built her, Papa," he said over the headset, voice thick. Below them, the Carter Aviation Institute sprawled like a dream made real, its windows glittering with reflected sunlight. At cruising altitude, Liam unbuckled to present a worn, grease-stained envelope. Inside, the original hospital bill from their birth, marked paid in full in Mr. Carter's shaky handwriting, along with every tuition receipt he'd saved. "We found these in your old toolbox," Liam confessed. "You never told us you paid the hospital by selling Mom's jewelry." Mr. Carter could only stare as his sons revealed their own surprise, a scholarship foundation in his name, already helping 137 fatherless children. As the plane banked over their hometown, Noah spoke the truth they'd all learned. "You taught us that real wealth isn't in what you keep, but what you give." The air traffic controllers wept as the brothers requested a flyover of the cemetery where their mother rested. In that sacred moment between earth and sky, 3 hearts beat as one, proof that love, when given without limit, becomes the most powerful force on earth. When they landed, a crowd of scholarship students rushed forward with roses. Mr. Carter, surrounded by this new generation of dreamers, finally understood the full circle of sacrifice. His calloused hands, once mocked for wasting effort on mere boys, now cradled the faces of children who would soar because one man believed. As the sunset painted the runway gold, the old mechanic whispered to the wind, "Emily, our love built a cathedral." And in the shimmering contrails above, somewhere, a mother smiled. And so the mechanic's sons proved that when you build others up, you never stand alone. But how many more children could soar if we all kept our promises so faithfully? The control tower erupted in cheers as Emily's Promise touched down smoothly, its wings glinting in the sunset. Mr. Carter sat in the cockpit, flanked by his sons, Liam with his blueprints, Noah in his pilot's uniform, their laughter echoing through the headset. Below them, the Carter Aviation Institute buzzed with students, a living testament to one father's unshakable love. As they helped him down the ramp, Mr. Carter paused, his eyes tracing the plane's name painted in gold. "You boys." His voice broke. "You turned my promise into wings." Noah squeezed his shoulder. "No, Papa. You taught us that love isn't measured in what you have, but what you give." The crowd surged forward, scholarship students, teachers, even old neighbors who once shook their heads. And as Mr. Carter stood there, grease-stained hands now holding roses instead of wrenches, he finally understood. The greatest legacies aren't built in hangars or bank accounts, but in the hearts we lift along the way. This is how a poor carpenter sold everything for his twin sons' education. 25 years later, they returned and left him speechless. Moral lessons. 1. True legacy. A parent's love plants trees under whose shade they may never sit. 2. Wealth redefined. The greatest investments are made in human potential. 3. Sacrifice rewarded. Every act of selfless love creates ripples beyond imagination. 4. Gender equality. Boys raised with unconditional love become men who change the world. To everyone enjoying these stories, thank you. Each video takes days of writing, editing, and heart to create. If you love African Tales by Denx, please subscribe. It's free, and it helps us grow so we can bring you even more amazing stories daily. Tap the like button if this story moved you, and comment below, more stories. Your support fuels our courage to keep creating. See you in the next tale. Love never fails. Subscribe if this story moved you.